How are we doing, guys? All UTV. Welcome to another Transfer Daily news update. So, guys, there's only one place to start here. There's only one place to start. I don't know if you've been living under a rock, but you will know yesterday a certain something was trending on Twitter. Hashtag FreeBenWhite. And to be fair, you'll all know about this, but last night, Leeds Twitter did what Leeds Twitter did best and started trending on Twitter with hashtag FreeBenWhite, which it does what it says on the tin, basically. We're trying to get Ben White out of Brighton. And as Jermaine Beckford says here, how amazing are LUFC fans? During the Champions League, FreeBenWhite is trending, and that is absolutely immense. You know, we've seen Lionel Messi score an absolutely sensational goal. Bayern absolutely thrashed Chelsea. And what's trending on Twitter? Not Messi's wonder goal, not Bayern Munich's performance. Ben White is trending on Twitter. This is just the magnitude of this football club. You don't even say it. You don't need to be too go on about that, but that is absolutely immense. But as we know, there's been a lot of updates on Ben White. We spoke yesterday on our live Transfer Daily with Joe and Danny, and we spoke a lot about Ben White. Phil Hay sounded a lot more positive, and when Phil Hay sounds positive, we should all feel more positive, because at the end of the day, the Oracle speaks. You have to listen to the Oracle. So that is what we've got on Ben White at the minute. It's trending on Twitter. It's still trending on Twitter. And yeah, it is very, very funny to look at anyway. And hopefully it pays off. But as a couple of people have said, hopefully the next stage is Ben White's handing in a transfer request to try and speed this one up a little bit. But as we've seen yesterday, in case you guys didn't know, we've had two bids we've put into Brighton. One for 18.5 million and one for 22 million, both of which have been turned down. And that's not a massive surprise, guys. That's not a massive surprise because you're looking at someone here who's not even 23 yet. He's 22. You know, he's got so much potential. I don't need to talk about how good Ben White is. I mean, last season for me, arguably our best player, arguably one of the best players in the Championship. For me, in the top five, at least. You know, that's probably underselling Ben White's quality last season. Easily the most consistent player in the Championship last season. And it's not a massive surprise that's been rejected. You know, I think Brighton, you know, they know a lot of teams are interested. To say one is Chelsea now, which is not a massive surprise either. Chelsea, according to the Daily Star, have joined the race to sign Ben White. Interestingly, they're talking about later on in this piece that they're going to look to sell Antonio Rudiger. So, you know, when they're selling someone, one of their main centre-backs, to try and potentially bring in Ben White, that does suggest, you know, how well thought of Ben White is amongst the elite clubs. You know, we already know Liverpool are interested. So, you know, it's not a massive surprise Brighton are rejecting 22.5 million. You know, it's not a surprise at all. When you've got these kind of clubs chasing him, they can spend 30, 40 million on a player at the drop of a hat. So it's not a massive surprise that's been rejected. It's probably going to take a lot more than that to get Ben White. Is Ben White worth it? Absolutely, 100%. You know, you can talk about how can a Championship defender be worth this much who's never played a game in Premier League football. But the thing is, it's all about resale value. You know, what he's done beforehand isn't particularly relevant. You know, he's had one excellent, outstanding season at Championship level. You know, we've seen Harry Maguire go later on for 80 million as he gets older. Ben White, for me, is a better player than Harry Maguire. Certainly got more potential than Harry Maguire. So you look at it from that point of view and say, yes, there's plenty of resale value there. And that's where the huge valuation on Ben White comes from. So for me, yeah, I'd happily pay a lot more than that for Ben White if that is what is required. And I think that's very much the thinking of Marcelo Bielsa. You know, Phil Hay spoke about yesterday in the Athletic article, which me and Joe and Danny discussed, that he's only looking at one centre-back. The thing is, if your one centre-back is Ben White, you're going to do everything to get him. If that's the number one target, Marcelo Bielsa is the type of manager, if he's got one target, he goes for that target. He doesn't go for the second choice. He doesn't go for the third choice. He wants that number one target. That is what your elite managers do. We've seen Jurgen Klopp do it with Virgil van Dijk. He will do everything. Victor Orsa, the club will do everything to try and get Ben White. I'm confident of that. Whether we can tempt Ben White to come to Leeds or if we can outbid the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, etc., etc. City, I think we've seen mentions from time to time as well. That's the big task, isn't it? I think ultimately Ben White himself, hopefully, you know, certainly from how he acted in the promotion celebrations, will be happy to come to Leeds by the looks of things. But can we beat those clubs in terms of money-wise on the transfer fee itself? Can we outbid them to an extent? And that's the challenge, isn't it, guys? But anyway, that is Ben White. We talk about Ben White a lot, but hashtag FreeBenWhite. If you haven't tweeted that out already, use that hashtag. We need to keep it trending, guys. We need to keep it trending. It's wising up Brighton fans, if nothing else, which is quite funny. You know, I've seen Brighton fans talk about how they're a well-run club. They've had 3 seasons in the Premier League and haven't finished above 15th yet. So I don't think you can call yourself a well-run club. I think Ben White clearly wants to play for Leeds or a different club to Brighton, it's clear as day. There'll be Brighton fans in the comments. Comment everything you want. Comment everything out. All the personal insults you want to have against me, all you want. The fact is still the same. Ben White does not want to stay at Brighton. He's rejected 2 contracts. Clubs are putting in bids for him. The transfer request is probably what is coming next. So let's move on from that anyway. So the next person to move on to is Said Benrahma. Again, another player we talk about a lot. Said Benrahma. So it looks like we're going to open the bidding for Said Benrahma. According to the Express, a couple of other links have said this as well, but the competition is immense. West Ham, Villa, Tottenham, Palace, a host of clubs are interested in this player. And for me, Benrahma, is the best player in the Championship at the moment, without a shadow of a doubt. We've seen Ben White go. Pereira's gone into the Premier League as well. KP's gone into the Premier League. So there's no argument there. Benrahma is the best player in the Championship. And obviously it's going to be worth a lot of money. And he's clearly too good for the Championship. The way he performed for Brentford last season, the way he stood out for Brentford last season, even more so than Watkins and Mbeumo for me. There's clearly going to be a high value for Said Benrahma. But Leeds opening up the bidding is quite a promising thing. Hopefully we can use that force we have being a Premier League club now to bully to an extent these Championship clubs, not to be disrespectful to Brentford, but we've got to use our power now. We've got Premier League football, potentially more funds, from the TV rights, etc., to sign players like this from Championship clubs. And yeah, it's one who I'd really, really want the club to sign. Phil Hayes mentioned it as well. He's very much one of the top targets for Leeds this season. And yeah, that does sound very promising. If we're going to open the bidding then, I'd love to know what Said Benrahma goes for, because it could be any host of fees. I've seen even mentions of 40 million plus mentioned for Said Benrahma. I'm not sure it'll go that far, being a Championship player. I think that does massively reduce his value. But it's interesting that we are opening the bidding on that one. So the next bit of news to go to is Harry Wilson, another player linked heavily with Leeds. 20 million has been the quoted fee for Harry Wilson. Now that does seem heavy. To be fair, considering he's a player Liverpool clearly don't want. Liverpool clearly don't need at the minute. No disrespect to Harry Wilson. You've got Mo Salah and Harvey Elliott, both very much ahead of him in the pecking order in terms of playing on the right-hand side. You've got Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, a whole host of players who can play on that right-hand side where Harry Wilson plays, or in the 10 role where Harry Wilson plays. So he's clearly not got a future at Liverpool. So to quote a fee like that does seem a bit heavy to me. Is Harry Wilson worth that? Again, I've not seen enough of Harry Wilson recently. But looking at his stats alone, 7 goals in 20 starts for a struggling Premier League club, as was mentioned yesterday. That, to be fair, does massively increase his value. He can strike a ball. He can do a lot in football. He's got a lot of potential. He's still only young as well. But the fact they're talking about Liverpool unlikely to allow Wilson to leave on loan again, unless it's like a loan to sign like we did with Helder Costa last season, does kind of pretty much tell its own story that Liverpool are not keen on keeping Harry Wilson. They don't want him on their books for much longer. They just want what's best for both parties. For Liverpool to get a transfer fee and Harry Wilson to continue his career, because at the end of the day, it does very much feel like that. If they're not willing to do another loan signing, it suggests they've seen enough of Harry Wilson to say that he hasn't got a future at Liverpool. But yeah, I think for any Premier League club that's struggling or in mid-table, they're going to be interested in Harry Wilson. So there's probably going to be a lot of competition there. 20 million does sound heavy, but to be fair to Liverpool, they've invested a lot in Harry Wilson, and he's proven himself quite a bit over the years as well. So yeah, that's not a massive surprise to see him highly valued. But again, same kind of players we're hearing about: Ben White, Benrahma, Harry Wilson. But let's go to a different rumour. Let's go through a different rumour that we've not heard of for quite a while now. Hudson Edouard. Again, this is one I totally ruled out a couple of weeks ago when it was mentioned on a live stream. But the Sunday Mirror, again, some of these sources, maybe not the most reliable, but I'm only going off what I'm reading here, guys. Anyway, so apparently Edouard is our number 1 striker target. But yeah, I mean, the mention of the region of 20 million, that seems low to me for someone like Hudson Edouard. I think you've seen the clubs he has been linked with: Chelsea. Obviously, he was at PSG before he signed for Celtic. It does seem low for someone like Edouard of his talent for a fee of that amount to be discussed. I think he is worth a lot more than that, to be honest. I think a lot of people, myself included, have a lot of hesitation towards signing strikers from the SPL because it's such a step up in quality going from the SPL to the Premier League. We've seen a lot of strikers fail to make the step up. Gary Hooper, to name one. Chris Boyd a couple of years ago to name one. There's a lot of strikers who've stepped up from the SPL and the Premier League and failed to make the step up. But look at Edouard, and I think he's got a lot of skill sets that suit the Premier League football. You know, he can run in behind, he can hold the ball up, he's strong in the air, he can score with both feet, he's got pace in behind as well. He ticks a lot of the right boxes, and he scores plenty of goals as well, albeit at obviously a lower level in the Premier League. No disrespect to the SPL, but that is very much the case at the minute. But yeah, he's a player who looks immense to me. And yeah, I mean, Ollie Watkins is obviously one that's been mentioned as well. But if you gave me a choice, and I'd be interested what you guys think in the comments down below. If you gave me a choice between Edouard and Watkins, I'd probably go with Edouard at the minute. You know, I think Edouard, in terms of what he's done at Celtic and the player teams he's been linked with, it's just, yeah, there's something about Edouard that just makes him appeal a bit more to me. I do really like Watkins. That would be my number one, number two choices. But yeah, Edouard would be a very, very exciting one to me, guys. Very exciting one. Mentioned him right at the start of the transfer window. I think Joe's mentioned him a couple of times as well. He's hardly been mentioned at all in recent weeks. You know, only little bits and pieces. But it did feel like that one was done, to be honest. But yeah, Edouard is linked with Leeds yet again, which is interesting and very exciting as well. But another interesting one as well. Another slightly new name, Amadou Diawara has been linked as well. Again, not particularly new, but we've not really seen a price tag mentioned about Diawara, but 27 million is what the value he's valued at. And again, Diawara at Roma, holding midfielder. Again, interesting looking at another holding midfielder. We've already spoken about, are we potentially looking at a 4-2-3-1 next season with Phillips and another holding midfielder in the midfield? But Diawara has been linked with a lot of top quality clubs. I think Roma are just selling him to try and raise funds for other areas of the pitch that needs a strengthening. But yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I think 27 million for a holding midfielder when we've already got KP does seem heavy. But that's the going rate. 23 years old, plenty of potential. Could be interesting, you know, if that one does come off. But again, Edouard, Diawara, we've seen mentioned before, but not really strong links until today. You know, these are the first real strong links we've had to him. You know, actual specific fees being mentioned for both of them. You know, and they've gone as far to say with Diawara that were actually his representatives are flying to England for talks. I mean, again, you have to take a lot of these transfer rumours with a pinch of salt, but you know, the actual wording, the actual mention of fees does sound a little bit more than just interest. You know, it does sound like this generally is something happening at this football club. You know, in the next couple of weeks, obviously Marcelo Bielsa, the strong rumours with Marcelo Bielsa is by Wednesday, that will be announced. But it's an interesting one, guys. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of some of these players we're linked with. You know, I think I'm happy with absolutely every single one of them. You know, I think I've looked at all of our transfer links in sort of the summer so far, and I've not looked at any of them for they're not good enough for Leeds. You know, I think I've looked at them all being promising players. You know, we're not signing players who are well past their best. You know, we're signing players who are up and coming and rising, and it's just very encouraging. This is a very encouraging start to the summer transfer window for me. We just need to try and get some players through the door now. We just need to try and actually get some of these players through the door. But I'm not getting too worried about that. You know, we have to remember it's a shortened pre-season. I know the season's less than 5 weeks away now, but you know, with context, we're just at the start of pre-season. We're not even started training yet, so not too concerned. The players haven't come through the door yet, or any proper offers have been made. But it sounds like BenWhite is the priority, then seconded by Benrahma. But again, as ever, that is your Transfer Daily news anyway, guys. Let us know in the comments down below what you think of some of these links, whether you think any of them are particularly realistic, and what you think of the fees being discussed. 20 million for Wilson, 20 million for Edouard, 27 million for Diawara. And obviously BenWhite, you know, possibly going to the 30 million range. So let us know what you think of some of those valuations, and make sure you join us later on. We have a very special guest. Nacho is joining us. Nacho, if you didn't see mentioned on yesterday's stream, very famous video on YouTube, and very popular YouTuber as well. 90k subscribers, massive thing for the channel. Getting someone of his quality on the channel for a chat. He loves Bielsa. He's going to chat all things Bielsa. He was at that last game of the season. He was in the box on that last game of the season. He met Bielsa himself. Absolutely top class interview coming up. We're going to talk all things Bielsa and all things Leeds United. And I'm going to leave it there, guys, anyway. Be another Leeds United Transfer Daily, and I'm going to see you later, guys. Thanks very much for watching.